Hello, and welcome to a Catholic Church episode of the William Branham Historical Research Podcast. I'm joking, Charles. We're not advertising the Catholic Church. However, if you read the comment feeds, you know that many people who are in the message, that's their first thing they go to. John, are you getting paid by the Catholic Church for exposing William Branham's false prophecies? But to be honest, there are a lot of things that are going on in the world today that we really need to address. The Pope being elected is one of them. And I'm one of the first persons who will leave the message and say that there are things that William Branham did get right. And so I want to talk through that. One of the things that I've mentioned he got right is that the man correctly said that whenever you eat pancakes, the correct way to eat them is to baptize them. I agree with this man. Why would you not do this when you eat your pancakes? One of the other things that he definitely got right, he said that, how can I teach them algebra when they don't even know their ABCs? That is a very profound statement. And I thought this when I was in the message. I'd look around at the message people, and half of them, Charles, they had no idea what it was they're supposed to believe and why. And it just shocked me. If you're in a doomsday cult and the world is about to end, why would you not want to learn more about this so-called ending of the world? Then after I left the cult, I began to realize, wait a minute, that's it's unbelievable, because now I'm exposing the things that William Branham was very deceptive and outright lied about some things. And before I can tell people why they're not supposed to believe a certain thing, I have to first teach them what it is that they're supposed to believe. And prime example of this is that I published this video recently on the election of the new Pope and William Branham's prophecy about there will one day come a United States Pope, which it's a numbers game. Out of the countries, they're going to elect a Pope. Eventually, they're going to pick a certain country. But I put this video together of just how wrong that is, because he had to change his doomsday, the entire doomsday scenario. He had to change it, and I put the video out, and you watch the comment feeds, and there are people saying things like, one person said, William Branham was the Holy Ghost. How can you say this against the Holy Ghost? And number one, that's heretical, but it's absurd. But you read through the comments, and you see people who, even though the information is presented in the video, they don't really understand that, no, they've been duped. They've been duped. How can you not see this, John? And so I thought it'd be good if we just talked a little bit about what's going on in the world today, give some history behind it, and hopefully teach them the ABCs so that they can move on to this algebra.
To just some extent, when you have to interact with someone still brainwashed, it make your head hurt just a little bit, because their perspective is so skewed, is so off base. And let me maybe disabuse the minds of our message listeners a little bit of the nature of these things. So everything that William Branham taught about the Pope, about the Catholic Church, about the Book of Revelation, there is not one stitch of that which is original to William Branham. He copied every last piece of that from other people. There is no unique predictions in the message about this, okay? None whatsoever. And in fact, William Branham taught multiple conflicting versions of all of this, okay? In one set of sermons, he used this book right here called The Prophecies of Daniel and Revelation. It is by a man named Uriah Smith. You'll find William Branham talk about him on tape. In one set of sermons, he used this book to interpret the prophetic imagery of the beast, of the two-horned beast, of the false prophet, of all that. He used the imagery in here, okay? In another set of sermons, he used a book that's still on my shelf by Clarence Larkin called Dispensational Truth, okay? And so there are two completely contradictory sets of interpretations of these things in the teachings of William Branham. Now, what people are using today are the set of his sermons and the quotes that came out of this book. Here, John. Okay, this is the book where the idea of an American Pope and an image of the beast being a confederation of the Protestants merging with Catholic, it all comes from here. Okay, and so when people all talk about William Branham got all of this right, no, you silly people, you're totally wrong. It's not vindicating William Branham; it's vindicating Uriah Smith, the guy he copied it all from. Okay, and so it don't even None of this has anything to do with William Branham. You're already in a wrong starting point when you're there. And in the message, there's just zero awareness of this. People have no idea. There is not any unique special beliefs of the message. There's not. I mean, this idea that they have this advanced special revelation that no one else is dead wrong. Everything you believe in the message is believed by somebody outside the message somewhere else, and that's where William Branham copied it from, okay? And something happening in the world is not a vindication of William Branham. It's a vindication of the people he copied from and told you it was his own idea. That's what it is, okay? And so, John, I could say so much about that, but when you copy from a whole bunch of places, well, maybe some of them are good places, and maybe some of them are bad places, right? And yeah, maybe William Branham did preach some things that were true, right? And along he also preached some things that were wrong, right? And so for me, when I look at these predictions of William Branham, it's not really relevant whether or not they're right or wrong in the sense of vindicating or validating him, because it doesn't. It only validates the people he copied it from. Okay? He is still a false prophet who deceived us all. It's irrelevant whether it's true or not, whether it comes to pass or not, right? I believe Jesus is coming again one day. He is going to come again one day, according to the Bible. William Branham was right, I think, if he said Jesus is coming again, right? So, there's an extent to which things can be true, but it has nothing to do with making William Branham a valid prophet. Absolutely nothing.
I've got a lot of emails, not just for this event, but for other events, from people who were never in the message. And some of them are now starting to realize frankly, how dangerous the message cult is and how destructive it is towards global Christianity. And they're asking, how can I help? How can I help these people? And they see what's happening. Whenever some world event happens, all the message people get up in arms and, oh my gosh, the end of the world is coming, and there's this fear that grips them. And the first comment that they give me is, John, the Bible says perfect love casts out fear. How can they live like this? And I have to explain to them, they're not reading the Bible in the same way that you do. They read it through what William Branham said, and William Branham's message was a message of fear, not a message of grace. It wasn't a new covenant message by no means. It was one step worse than the oppression that the law brought to the people. And whenever Paul said we're not living like this anymore, we now have a new high priest, it says in the book of Hebrews. They're not living like this. Their new high priest is William Branham. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter the Bible or God or anything like this. So for those people, what I've had to try to explain to them is that the message people were indoctrinated to a very black or white mentality. It's either right or it's wrong. William Branham said it or he didn't say it. That's really that's their worldview. And worse than that, if you think of that mentality, it's very difficult if you weren't indoctrinated. But they look at William Branham as historically that way. So what he preached in the last days, the last years, was also what he preached at the beginning, because it's a message from God, not a message from William Branham. So it must all be coherent, right? And the problem is there are so many contradictions. It's riddled with contradictions. And they're not just, you've seen the argument. They say, well, William Branham was just a man. He had some contradictions. Well, the things that are contradicting aren't the things from William Branham. They're the thus saith the Lord. Those things are in contradiction. So William Branham's God was contradicting himself effectively. But we have gone through it in our podcast, and unfortunately and sadly, many people who are in the message won't listen to those because we're the devils. We're Janus and Jambres, right, Charles?
I thought we were Dathan and Korah.
Dathan and Korah. Whatever name,
Maybe
whatever
we're
insult.
all of it. I don't know.
Whatever insult they can throw at us. So they won't go listen to them. But to sum up, for you people who are trying to help people who are indoctrinated in the message, I'll just give you a brief summary of why this is so wrong. Why William Branham's prophecy failed, even though there was a United States Catholic Pope. Charles and I covered this in the beginning, but in the very, very beginning, William Branham was working with the mob, with the actual mob. It's documented, it's in the newspapers. His family is living in the casino, right there it was called Wathen Farms. William Branham learned odds. His family was racing at the horse track. I mean, all of this makes sense when you think about it. He learned odds. So you can randomly throw out predictions, and if you're really good at understanding how the odds work, female president, Charles, what are the odds of a female president?
In the future, 100%.
In the future, 100%. But for every single election,
It's
male or
50-50.
female, it's 50-50. That's pretty good odds, right? Now, granted, if you take his time period, it was a little bit less because it was unlikely. But the way it was presented to the people was that it was impossible, and that's not the case. And so anyway, he understood the odds. Then there comes a period of time when he's working with very, very dangerous people in white supremacy. And one of the people that was connected into his inner circle was Gerald Burton Winrod. Winrod was preaching that all of the isms would come together and you need to watch Mussolini. And William Branham mentions, I was almost arrested for this. Well, that transitioned from that version of whatever was their doctrine to, in the earliest versions of William Branham's 1933 prophecies, he said there are 3 isms, and they'll all wind up in one, communism. And he goes on, there's many variations to how he explains this, but basically, communism will rule the world. It's going to destroy Rome. There'll be a bomb that's dropped and just totally destroy the Vatican. And before that happens will be the end of the world. Our little group, our group will be raptured. Well, he later introduces the notion that it's a female president. So he brings in the female president, and, oh, by the way, God told me, thus saith the Lord. When all of this happens, it's because there's a female president. She is the one that initiates this. And he's very clear it's a female. Well, then whenever white supremacy rises up against JFK, and the political parties that are established because they're fighting civil rights, Branham said, oh, well, it wasn't a female president. It was maybe a female vice president, or maybe the Catholic Church, and look what we have today. President Kennedy is a Catholic. And then it turns into, this is where his prophecy comes out, and I don't think it was a prophecy. This was propaganda. It was not a prophecy. But he starts to say that because of Kennedy, there will be a pope come out of the United States. The Catholic Church is going to, instead of the woman, the Catholic Church is going to be the quote-unquote woman, and the Catholic Church will destroy everything. You own everything. You'll either join with the Catholic Church or you won't. So he changed his worldview completely. There is no communist Russia that drops the bomb and destroys it. Instead, Rome owns communism in this worldview. Now, fast forward to today's world. All of the many scenarios that he gives and the reasons why they give them. For one thing, he said there will be a, what did he call it? It was this global universal council of churches would exist. The Pope would step into it, and it would dictate how you believe God so that they could push the Catholic agenda. That's what William Branham said because it aligned with white supremacy. That was their propaganda. So as all of this is coming out, he's pushing the notion that there's this group of people that are telling the denominations what they can believe. There was some semblance of this. There is a National Council of Churches, and I think there's a World Council, but they don't work in the way that he said that. It will never work in the way that he said that because you can't make all of the doctrines of each denomination align with each other. And the Pope is not a part of it. The Catholic Church sometimes has dialogue, but they won't join into it because that's Protestantism. Catholics are separate. It's Catholicism. And so they're not winding up in one ism. And even if they did, it doesn't match the first version of his prophecy because that ism was supposed to be communism. So when you see there's a female who might be president or might be vice president, they pick the one side of the stage persona that doesn't match the other side. But now that there's a Catholic Pope and we have Trump, we don't have a female president, well, now they choose the other side. So they can't really decide which version of William Branham that they're choosing.
what's happening on the back end as William Branham does all that, right? Because you're spot on right. William Branham changed dramatically these predictions over time. What's happening on the back end? Well, go back to the very, very beginning. Okay, what I believe he said 1932, right, was the first time he gave the Mussolini prophecy, right? Where was William Branham in 1932? He was a elder in Roy Davis's church in Jeffersonville. This was before the Branham Tabernacle existed. He was an elder in the church of the Imperial Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, who was working with the Christian Defenders, Gerald Winrod's group. When he says the ism stuff and all of that, who's he copying from? He's copied from Gerald Winrod. He's copying from the Christian Defenders. None of this was ever original to William Branham. The Christian Defenders were saying those exact same things back then, John, and they were saying them before William Branham. And in 1932 and 33, while he is still in the Church of the Imperial Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, he claims that he was saying the same thing. No surprise there. You fit well in with the people surrounding you, William Branham. They were saying the same thing. Yep, and they were all a bunch of white supremacists and Nazis too. Fast forward in time, John, and he just changes source after source over time who he's copying from. William Branham had no original thoughts. Don't be so silly as to think he did. He copied everything. I have on my shelves behind me. This is a recreation of William Branham's library. I have the same books of the same editions that were in his personal library. You can get pictures of them in his magazines of pictures of what his library looked like. He tells on tape a number of times the books in his library. This book by Uriah Smith is one of the books in his library. And John, I have looked through all of these books and compared them to William Branham's sermons. And what is, this is a little bit sad, John. The books that William Branham copied out the most were the ones with really good pictures in it. He seemed to like the books with pictures more than the ones with words. How sad is that? Okay. And so I'm going to hold up some of the beautiful pictures in this book because, a picture's worth 1,000 words. John, here is Uriah Smith's teachings. Okay. The bison, the two-horned beast, is the United States in his writings. Okay. This is where William Branham got these ideas from. This is America. And he goes through in this book and he explains how the Protestants in America, the two-horned beast, will create the image of the beast, and how the Protestants will ultimately end up uniting with the Catholic Church, and they'll come down and they'll persecute and try to exterminate the real church. Okay? He preached this, he wrote this in these books before William Branham was born. And this is where William Branham copied those ideas from. Right? And you know, you could go through it in detail, John. Everything that he said, all of those predictions come from these books. And there's nothing special about it, there's nothing unique about it. And even if today you want to carry on and you want to say those beliefs are right, they have nothing to do with a man named William Branham. Absolutely nothing to do. You can carry on with those beliefs and throw William Branham to the curb. The only unique belief of the message is that William Branham was the Elijah of Malachi 4, and that he was the Revelation 10:7, and that he was the that he was the seventh church age messenger. But those concepts are not even unique. He copied those from other people and just changed the name to his name, even, right? Like there's nothing unique about any of it. Took these ideas from other people, he inserted his name into a few key spots, and he presented all the rest of this to us as the message, okay? And whether or not the Pope is going to be the Antichrist at the end of days, and whether or not he comes from America or wherever, has nothing to do with William Branham, because there are people who believe this before William Branham was even born, John. And you can go, there are millions and millions of people outside the message who believe this. This doesn't make the message special. It doesn't make the message unique. It doesn't confirm anything about William Branham. It just confirms maybe if it's right, maybe he finally copied something from somebody that was right rather than copying stuff from wrong. Now, here's the thing, John. Here's the thing. You and I lived in the message almost our whole lives. Do you remember when John Paul II was the last day Antichrist Pope that was going to kill us all? Do you remember that one?
Absolutely.
Do you remember? Do you remember when Pope Benedict was the last day Pope who was the one that was going to kill us all? How about, do you remember when Francis was the last day Pope that was going to kill us all? And none of it ever happened, did it? Okay. Just like Kamala was not the woman in purple, and Hillary was not the woman in purple, and just like, we can keep going. Just like all those women's in purple weren't women's in purple. The leaders of the message have a 50, 60-year-long track record of being consistently wrong. They have never, ever, ever been right with any single one of these predictions for the last 50 and 60 years. Now, what kind of a fool would trust a person like that to give them a prediction today? I'm not that stupid, John. I am not that stupid. These people have proven to me they have no idea what they're talking about. They have proven it to me over and over and over and over and over. And here's what you got to do if you're in the message today, ladies and gentlemen. Because if you're in the message today, I want you to know I love you. Most of you are my closest friends and loved ones. I mean, I love the people in the message, John. I mean, my heart bleeds for them. I mean, I get out of the bed in the morning and think, what can I do to help the people in the message? That is like the heartthrob of my life, John. Here's what you need to do, ladies and gentlemen. You need to write this prediction down, just like every other one that's coming, okay? And here's the thing, 2 to 3 years from now, you will have forgotten all about this prediction and you'll be moved on to another one, right? You've got to stop doing that. You've got to start thinking, wait a minute, they made the prediction and it didn't happen. And you've got to keep that track record, okay? And over time, it's going to help you wake up that you can't trust these people. They don't know what they're talking about. And that is, I think, what you got to do, ladies and gentlemen. And whether or not the end of days is going to come or not, well, of course it is. Jesus is coming again, right? Of course he's coming again. And of course there's things in the Bible about the last days. But none of that has anything to do with saying that the preachers in the message or William Branham had a clue about what they were talking about or that they're authorities that you should trust or listen to tell you about these things.
Charles and I are a bit different. Charles is a minister, and he has a compassion for going and working and helping people out of the message. My agenda, if I have one, is just simply to document the history that they're covering up. If you want to believe the message, I'm not going to stop you. It's your freedom to believe if you want to. You can believe the flying spaghetti monster religion if you want to, and quite frankly, there's a lot of similarities between the two religions if you stop and think about it. I'm not pushing that people go out of it, but I will push people who are in the message, Charles, at least listen to what the man said. The man wanted you to learn your ABCs before you know your algebra. Learn the ABCs of what it is that you believe and why, because then you won't be torn from side to side and so scared every time that there's a world event. I'm going to predict, and I'm no prophet, but I can predict and assure you there will be a next world event, Charles. Something will happen in the world. And I will also predict that every single message minister will cause every member of their congregation in their seats to be scared. Oh my gosh, there's a world event. Something happened. And, whenever you've got a prophet, a quote unquote prophet, who's randomly playing the odds and throwing out things that many of these things could happen, they may not. Some of them might. And when they do, I'm going to scare the congregation. The Bible says perfect love casts out fear. This is not the message of God. This is the message of William Branham. This is the one that scares you. So I'm just going to openly throw it out there. If you want to believe in William Branham, at least believe what he says. Believe that there must be a female president, and the female president must also be President Kennedy, because he said this. And at the same time, it's a female president that causes the end of the world. It's also Kennedy that causes the end of the world. And it's also the Pope that causes the end of the world. When you can make all of those three things fit into one box, then you've got your doomsday.
That is well said, John. In the message, they just keep you on the edge of your seat from one thing to another, and they never let you stop. And how many of the preachers that said Pope Francis was it have apologized and said they were wrong? Zero. No. How many that said Benedict was it apologized and said they were wrong? I remember he was from Germany. Oh, they were sure he was it. He's a Nazi. He's from Germany. He's gonna. None of them apologized for that one either. John Paul II, remember how he was, having all the problems with the Russia, and oh boy, that was really seemed to fit everything the prophet said. No, it was wrong again, right? Nobody ever comes back and says, oh, we were wrong, guys. Turns out we don't know what we're talking about. Just like when this one, this pope, he's probably going to get old, he's probably going to die, and there's probably going to be another pope, John. Because hey, that's been the pattern for 2,000 years, right? I mean, why wouldn't that's the most likely thing to happen is what's already always happened, right? But one day Jesus will come back, right? Do you think when this pope gets old and dies or whatever happens that all these preachers will come back and say, "Oh, we're sorry we lied to you about all this. We obviously don't know what we're talking about." None of them will say that. They'll move on to another prediction and they'll keep you on the edge of your seat. So you keep giving them your money and all the other stuff, and they got their following and it just don't have anything to do with anything. It just don't have anything to do with anything. And they're sucking people in and they're harming a whole lot of people in the process.